I grew up in a small community of some 600 residents, small village. There was a school, a market, a gas station, and a house of worship. Most of the people in that town were related either by blood or by marriage. It was a tight-knit community where we all looked out for each other. And it had been that way for hundreds of years. At first glance, it appears to be a peaceful place with beautiful rolling hills and trees sprinkled throughout the landscape. Children would play out of doors, running from house to house, often having snacks or meals together. But this picture doesn't tell the whole story. You see, not far from us live another group of people. We can see them from where we live. By contrast, they live in neatly arranged red tile roof houses, manicured lawns, playgrounds, a swimming pool. I found out from my parents that the land on which that town was built used to belong to us. But the government put a military station right next to that town to protect them and to make our lives a living hell. We are second-class citizens. We are not afforded some of the things that you would assume would be normal in a civil society. There are checkpoints that keep us from going where we'd like to go. My dad was arrested over 9 times. So, although it seems like a peaceful place, our people have been fighting against this unfair treatment for decades. You can't get used to growing up without a dad, but we had to become accustomed to the fact that our papa would be missing another one of our birthdays or other celebrations. One of my earliest memories was going to visit him in prison. Our mom would get up early in the morning to prepare him a meal. I was only 3 at the time. She'd wake up myself and my brother. We'd get on the bus, take a long trip to the prison. There, we'd be strip searched and made to wait outdoors until it was our time. When we got to visit with my dad, we sat at a table with a metal barrier between us, with small holes in it. Because I was so young, I remember being delighted I was able to put my fingers through the little holes and touch him. As you can imagine, my mom had a very difficult life, raising 4 kids without her husband being around. But by observing her, you'd never know it. She never seemed to lose that spark of hope. She would help us as much as she could in our family, but she'd help others as well. I remember one time we were playing outdoors and 3 Jeeps came racing up the road. Soldiers jumped out of the Jeeps and came running towards us. We were terrified. We bolted up the road looking for a place to hide. Most of us went into a house of a neighbor and hid in a closet like sardines. We were as quiet as could be, hoping that they wouldn't find us. The voices got louder, speaking in their foreign language and angry. And they came into the bedroom. One of the soldiers opened the door and we came tumbling out. One of my friends stood up, trying to endear herself to the soldier, said, "Uncle, you're not going to kill us, are you?" Apparently they were looking for someone else. So he seemed amused and they left. But to that point, it was the scariest day of my life. Much of my childhood was shaped by my dad's mom. She was a very caring person, always looking out for the needs of others before her own. She was also the world's best storyteller. Now, these weren't fairy tales. These were real life stories about our people, our family, and the struggles we had. They showed the heartbreak and hell that she had experienced. They revealed the intergenerational trauma that was embedded in our DNA. She told one time about how the soldiers had tortured my dad so bad, he went into a coma for over a week. Not far from our village, there was a spring, which our village had used for generations to get the water. At one point, this other village put up a fence to block our access to it. Fortunately, the government made them take it down, but never provided us protection. So each time we would go there, we'd be bothered by either the neighbors from the other town or the officers. This incident was the spark that started our village to do some unarmed resistance, for which our village became famous. My dad, along with some other leaders, got together. They made a plan. They decided on continued marches to resist not only this unfair treatment, but all the unfair treatment we received. I have found that when I encounter someone who has a different way of looking at things, there are what I would perceive on the wrong side of history. It's easy for that to cloud my mind. And sort of like Brad was talking about earlier, we let our mind interfere with things and don't let our heart access it. The story I told today was about Ahed Tamimi. She became famous because of her outspoken resistance to the Israeli government and to the military, the way that they were treated there. A speech I gave not too long ago, I talked about the hopeless situation in which the Israelis find themselves. It's like a no-win situation. I was challenged after giving that speech to look at the same conflict through the eyes of Palestinians. It was hard for me. But so I found this book called They Call Me Lioness. And it's the story of Ahed's journey and how she saw things from her perspective. Now, I did notice that there were some glaring, from my perspective, absences in that book. Details of, well, I'll just give you an example. We were attacked by the Israelis. Well, you had just launched these missiles against them, and I think that would probably be something that should be included. But I asked myself, is it possible she's not aware of it? Sort of like we've talked about before with some citizens who only listen to one side of an argument, and if they listened to both sides, January 6th may never have happened. I read this book and given this speech to make sure that I never close my heart to someone who has a different ideological perspective than I have. And if you want to join me in having that commitment, that's a plus for me and for those who will receive our compassion.